Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. Hello, Front Seat Lifers. It is Jessica Butts, your host, and as always, I will say I'm actually more excited to come to you than I normally am. That sounds really screwed up, but I am. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I just came off of an incredible week with my mastermind. So I have a group of, we're 4 total, so 3 other entrepreneurs in my life that have become very dear friends. And we just went away to Palm Springs. We do this quarterly. Typically we're meeting in Seattle, but we decided we needed some sunshine. So we went to Palm Springs for 4 days and we mastermind. We are building relationships. So some of us have been in relationship for a while, but we're building a new relationship, which is a mastermind relationship. So we are Marco Poloing and building that relationship, but that's not the point of this part of this podcast. But the reason I'm excited is because I just came off of a week with them and I am reinvigorated for Front Seat Life, for my business, for you guys, for this podcast, and to be of service. Again, I think that's where I'm starting this is just by saying I'm more excited than normal. And I'm also really freaking excited to bring you today's topic, which is goal setting for intuitives. And I'm excited for a lot of reasons. One, because I'm an intuitive. I work almost exclusively with intuitives. Front Seat Life is really designed for intuitives because we are the weirdos. We are only 25% of the population. And quite honestly, of that 25% of the population, a large portion of those people don't even know that they're intuitives because they've been living suppressed in a world made up by sensors. So if you've been following along with me, you certainly know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, I will give you some idea of that today, but you can certainly go back and listen to some of the very beginning episodes of this year. I'm also excited to go into a new year and a new decade with you guys, 2020, going into a new decade of my life, my business, but also being of service to you guys and being part of this Front Seat Life community, building a new Front Seat Squad that's coming soon, doing some free webinars, basically getting out the content of Front Seat Life that I am so ridiculously passionate about to help people in their life, love, and business. And so, hey, it's almost 2020. I am recording this today on mid-November. I think this will be going live on November 15th, which means we have 6 more weeks left of this decade. And we've got a new 2020 coming in just a few weeks. And that's what today's topic is about. And quite honestly, probably the rest of the year for this podcast will be primarily things around closing out a year and getting ready for a new year. Because those of you who are listeners, who are Front Seat Lifers and who may want to join the Front Seat Squad, which is going to be open December 18th. So just stay tuned for that. I'll say that now. I've got 2 freebies coming up on December 18th. I've got a webinar about how and how you can do your year in review. I'm going to literally walk you through my process of my year in review so it can be your year in review. And then I'm also opening up a brand new offering called the Front Seat Squad. And so that's all coming on December 18th. If you want to know more about that, pop over to my website at jessicabutts.com and there is a free personality assessment. It's just a couple of modules down, if you will, and go pop on my list and you will be updated for all of that upcoming information. 2 freebies, the free. And it's because I am just crazy passionate for the Front Seat Life way of life, but also specifically intuitive type. So before we get into the goal setting for intuitives, just a tiny reminder, as I've already hinted, that Intuitive types are only 25% of the population. We truly are the weirdos of the world because our world is designed by the other 75%. Anytime 75% of the population is anything, that is going to predominantly win out in terms of how schools are designed, how our jobs are designed, the 9 to 5, how we take tests, meetings, all the structure is really designed primarily for sensors, definitely SJs for that matter. And so I work really only with, or predominantly with, I would say 98% of my clients are intuitives, that either the NJs like myself, the entrepreneurs, or the NPs, the squirrels. And we're different, but we're similar in the way of what I'm going to talk to you about today, which is this goal setting. So we're different in a lot of ways, but again, today's topic is specifically about goal setting. So let's jump into it. I've got 6 main things that I want to start with. And I'm going to start by saying how we don't do things, or we need to not do things, I should say. Intuitives are not sensors. We do not process information the way that 75% of the population does. So sensors are SMART goal kinds of people. Peter Ducker, I think that's his name, Peter Ducker. He is the founder and creator of SMART goals. God bless him. He's doing great because 75% of the population sets goals the way he likes to set goals. Specific and measurable and timeable and all that stuff. Intuitives, we are not like that. We are not like that. We are not sit down and write things out kinds of people. So some of this you may not be aware of this. Some of you may, and some of you may not, but I'm about to tell you the way that intuitive brains work in terms of goal setting. So again, sensors, God bless you, you're 75% of the population. But I also feel like, you've got everything all designed for you. The world is designed for you. I'm specifically talking about the intuitives and the way that the life has not been designed for us. We live in a world that is designed by a bunch of people who don't get the ways our brains work. And so that is why I'm so fucking passionate about working with intuitives, because I am that person. I went into, I guess we can just get into this. I went into a marriage with a sensor and was told, I'm supposed to do things a certain way. I'm supposed to wanna, not travel by myself. And I'm supposed to wanna, have the white picket fence. And I'm supposed to wanna have this 9 to 5 job. And I'm supposed to wanna climb this corporate ladder and be fine with fine. Well, it turns out I ain't fine with fine. And every intuitive I've ever met in my life is also not fine with fine. We want variety and spontaneity and newness and personal development and what's next and into the future and how can I develop myself better? How can my life be better? How can I do things different? How can I maybe be in a relationship and not be married? How can I maybe not live with somebody? How can I not work a 9 to 5 job? How can I make a difference in this world? How can I be different? Every intuitive I know asks ourselves those questions, yet most of us get into a world of goal setting, creating a relationship, creating a life for ourselves the way that we are, I'm using air quotes, supposed to. And intuitives don't live a supposed to life. So I'm going to be in business forever. I think I've got the best business model ever because we intuitives don't know this about ourselves, right? Most of us, me included, went to college, got the degree, did the things we were supposed to do, did the marriage, got the white picket fence, did all the things. And then just like most of my clients, at about, 34, 35, my life blew up, which is a godsend, actually. My husband cheated on me and, all this stuff happened. And I'm glad that it did because it also opened my eyes to I'm not happy anyway. So it would have happened no matter what. And I'm having clients having that right now. I want to move away, or I want to go travel by myself, or I want to quit my job. Yet my partner, whoever that is, may be a sensor and doesn't necessarily agree with that or want that. So part of the education that I do, which is not this episode, sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but part of the education of front seat life in particular are our differences and understanding who we are, putting our own oxygen mask on first so that we can then start communicating with people in our lives, my assistant and my director of operations and my life partner right now and my team and my friends and my mom and all the people in my life, like my rocks, the most important people, communicating with them the way that I and the way that you communicate in this world, the way that we take in information, the way that our brain works, so that we stop trying to make people be different, or we stop trying to make ourselves different. I mean, that's where I'd like to start. Everyone needs to start with that. Like, stop trying to be something that you're not. Like, be unapologetically who you are. Again, I always caveat that would be a good person, but then you've got to show up and be who you are. So you got to figure that stuff out first before you, jump into a relationship, before you get married, and if you're already married, then you got to figure it out, or before you start a business. I mean, I see so many people start a business and try to be like everybody else. In fact, somebody in my mastermind, we were just Marco Poloing this morning, and she was saying, I'm going to do this webinar a certain way. And, I learned it from an S, a wonderful person, Amy Porterfield, but Amy is an S. And I reminded her, I said, just remember, you're not an S. Like, you need to show up as you, or it's going to be inauthentic. It's not going to come off the right way. It's not going to be the I don't want to say her name, but the way that you do what you do, it's going to be like somebody else. So again, this is why I'm so passionate about helping kind of the pre-entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurs, people in relationships, and just people kind of going into the front seat life. So, huge intro. Sorry about that humongous intro, but I'm fired up today. And I did warn you, again, coming off of my mastermind, it gets me real fired up. Okay, so let's talk about some goal setting for intuitive. So that was kind of the main thing is number one. I guess I did start. It just got a little off kilter there. And again, that's a very intuitive way to do things. If I was all buttoned up and I did things a certain way, some of you would not love that. And some of you probably hate my way of doing things. And that's okay too, because I am not for everybody. You guys get this, right? Like, it's about attracting the right people. There's a lot of you that would hate if I was like, okay, button number one and point number two. Like, that's not who I am, and it's also not who I attract. And people also love that with other people. Amy Porterfield is a great example. In fact, when I told you I just went to her event and watching Rachel Hollis on stage and then Amy, both were equally brilliant, but they were totally different in the way that they did things because they're completely different people. But again, it's just owning who you are. So the first thing is, if you are an intuitive, stop trying to do SMART goals, okay? So I'm going to tell you how intuitive brains work around setting goals for the new year. And by the way, I think you should do this quarterly, not just yearly, but I'm adamant about setting quarterly goals. I have 90-day sheets. I have all kinds of different things. So again, if you want to follow along with me, I'm doing a webinar. Front Seat Squad is opening December 18th. Go get on my list, jessicabutts.com, and find out more there. So first things first, number one, we intuitives must start with the big picture. We must start with the big picture. We are like a funnel. So in your mind, think of a funnel, or use your hands right now as a funnel. Sensors start at the bottom of the funnel. They are detail people. They are down there in the minutia. They are, how much, when, all the details. And then they get big picture. Intuitives, we start at the big picture, and then we get smaller. We get smaller after we start big. So my friends, you have to start with the big picture. This is the time of year to be dreaming about big goals. I'm a 5-year person, a 10-year person. Like, where do I want to be in 5 years is something that I like to play with. I like to think about money, where I'm going to live, what my life is going to look like, how I'm going to look, meaning like my health and my vitality. How's your vision board, people? What's up with your vision board? Do you have a new one? Do you even not have one? What does it look like? Are you updating it? And then what are the big pictures for yourself? And thinking about, into 2020, 5 years, possibly even 10 years. I like to think about the fact that, I'm 46 now. I'm going to be 51, which I don't know how that's possible. 51 in 5 years. What do I want my life to look like in 5 years? Because that is how intuitives do things. We think big and then we backtrack. Sensors, on the other hand, they are in the moment now and then they grow bigger. So this is imperative difference and simply just the way that our brains are, the way that God designed us. 25% of the population literally sets goals differently, and you have to know this about yourself. So if you do not have a 5-year vision for yourself, you freaking better get one. I will out somebody else in my mastermind group. Again, I'm not going to name names, but somebody in my mastermind group did not have a 5-year vision. And I literally was like, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? Like, how she's an ENFJ. And I said, how are you even functioning on a day-to-day basis without a 5-year plan? I'm going to be honest. I would have given up this gig a long time ago because it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And to stay motivated, that is how intuitives stay motivated. We are not motivated by the minutia. We are not motivated by rules. We are not motivated by weighing our food or weighing ourselves every single day or being told this is the way we're supposed to do things. Like, that is not motivating to us. A big picture, a vision is motivating. I will never forget, I had this client years ago. She's I just adore her. And she wanted to lose some weight. She's an ENFP to the max, like full E, full N, full F, full P. And she started this weight loss program where she was working with a trainer, weighing herself, weighing her food into like tracking every single thing, super, super, super minutia. And she was gaining weight. I just think that's hilarious. She was gaining weight. And I talked to her about it. And I said, I'm not surprised because you are doing it like a sensor does things. That is not motivating for us. It is not how we goal set. And we just have to straight up get honest with ourselves that is not how we goal set. We are not in the minutia. We are big picture people. And then we go down. So I'm going to keep going so that you'll know what I'm talking about. Number 2. How do you want to feel? This is a big one for intuitives. How do you want to feel? Not focusing on all of the minutia. Again, I am super guilty of this as a super strong J. I will get into the weeds real fast in terms of numbers and like calculating things, and I'll get into the how and not paying attention to the bigger picture of how do I want to feel. So in a couple of weeks, I will be actually on December 18th, I will also be talking about theme words and how I choose those. So make sure you stay tuned for that and get on my list so you can find out more about that. The free webinar coming up on the 18th, December 18th. How do you want to feel? Those theme words are, for anybody who's ever done it before, it's utterly fascinating. It is mind-blowing to me, the power of our subconscious. And again, I've talked about this before, that I went to hypnotherapy school. I loved it. It is not my area of expertise, definitely not my zone of genius. However, what I did learn from the biggest thing I took away from hypnotherapy school was the power of our subconscious and this power of the big picture, our subconscious, how our home looks, the things that are around us, our vision boards, how we want to feel, our theme words, and surrounding ourselves with those things as intuitives I mean, again, it'll literally blow your mind, but you just have to do it. Okay. Number 3 is feeling into it. Feeling into it. So I just hired a new coach, Kate Northup. I'm very happy and proud to say that. She wrote a book this year called Do Less. I've been watching her for a while, and I'm very proud to say I'm one of 10 people that were selected to be in her new mastermind group, and I'm very looking forward to 2020. Anyway, Kate was talking about, she did a Instagram story series on procrastination. And I loved it because it was about intuitives. And maybe, she doesn't know about intuitives yet, but she certainly will now that I'm her client. But she was talking about procrastination. And I love this because I've thought before I knew all this stuff, I used to somewhat think that I was a procrastinator. And it's not about procrastination for intuitives. It's the fact that it's the number 3rd thing on goal setting for intuitives, which is we need to feel into it. Stephanie was just over here yesterday for a marathon, planning session. And I was telling her the same thing that I have learned, and I learned this when I wrote my first book, is that my process is 90% feeling into it. As Kate was talking about, like she was writing something and she felt like she went down to the last minute, and she was talking about, gosh, it felt a lot like procrastination, but it's actually not procrastination. It's the way that intuitives do things. We spend about 90% of our time feeling into it. That's the intuitive introverted intuitive, or the extroverted intuitive, is we need to sit with it, process it, feel into it, think about it, contemplate it, journal it, externally process it, internally process it, all the things. And then we're ready to do it. And this has been my cycle for years and years and years. And the more that I acknowledge it, the better. Because when I step in and try to force something, as Kate Northup was also talking about when she was writing on her Instagram stories, that when she tried to force it, or someone saying to her, hey, yo, Kate, like, what's going on, girl? Why are you not getting something done? Or sometimes Stephanie it'll scare the shit out of her that I haven't done something yet. Or, I haven't put together a content calendar. Or I haven't done blah, 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 whatever it is. And it's a reminder to myself and a reminder to her, but mostly to me, that this is part of intuitive's process. It's part of my process. And I'm here talking to you today about this is part of goal setting for intuitives, is that we have to acknowledge our process, that it is all part of the intuition, and that intuition is our 6th sense, meaning we have to check it out with our gut. And I don't know how long that takes. I mean, sometimes it'll take 3 months for me. Sometimes it'll take 24 hours, but I have learned to trust my gut, to feel into it, and to not rush something without processing it first. So sensors are much more in the moment. They can touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it, see it. It is a fact. That is how they process information. Intuitives have to oftentimes sit with it, decide how it feels. How does my intuition think about that? So whatever that means for you, taking a walk, going on vacation by yourself, your morning practice, like this is a time for me where I get even more introverted. I mean, I'm an extrovert, but I honor the other part of my front seat, which is my introverted intuitiveness. And when I'm making big decisions, I have to sit with it. I have to feel into it. So again, number 1 is starting with the big picture. Number 2, deciding how you even want to feel. And then number 3 is feeling into it and knowing that that is part of your process and not letting the censors of the world judge you or manage you or tell you that's wrong or why aren't you doing it this way or I need this thing right now. And part of, why I love being an entrepreneur is I can do it my own fucking way. Like I'm my own boss. I'm going to decide when I do things when I want to do them. Granted, I get more stuff done than most people, but again, I'm doing it in my own way, not on somebody else's timeline. Okay, that was number 3. Number 4 is mind mapping. So this is very, very difficult to explain on a podcast. So go check out my webinar on the 18th because I can show you, obviously I'll be on a video, so I can actually show you what mind mapping looks like, and or you can also go look it up. You can just Google mind maps. But the point of a mind map is, quite honestly, it's for intuitive types. It is for intuitives to be able to get their ideas out of their head. This is probably another reason that I'm fired up. So I'm an early riser. I get up about 5:30, and I process. I am adamant about my morning practice. And this morning I had an epic one. And it's because I had come off of a mastermind. I was doing a lot of lists. I've been doing a lot of feeling into it and sitting with it and leaning in. And today I felt inspired to do a mind map and it all downloaded. And so I don't have those moments all the time. I wish it happened I actually couldn't happen every day or I'd be super overwhelmed. But today was a download day because I took the time to mind map. And a mind map is a way, again, for intuitives to get it out of our head in a big picture way, not in a SMART goal way, not in a list kind of way, but in a bigger picture way. So again, it's very, very difficult to explain it on not via Zoom or something. So come join me on the 18th and or go look it up on Google and you'll definitely see a bunch of ideas. Okay, number 5. This, for those of you who are not believers, you can definitely skip through this, fast forward a little bit. But I also pray. I've say this a lot. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer that also says fuck a lot. And I believe in prayer. And so, I prayed. I prayed this morning. I pray when I'm stuck. I pray for other people, of course, but, sometimes I just say, okay, God, like I'm over managing this. Can I get an amen from the over managers? I am over managing this and I need your input. And that's exactly what I say. I need you to take the wheel. I need you to get out of my J-ness and help me get out of my control freak J-ness and help me see the bigger picture or help me see your way or your will. And so that's one of the ways that I do it. The other way is that I check out with my mastermind. So, I don't, I believe in taking guidance. I don't believe in people telling me what to do. Like in last week's podcast was all about trusting your own intuition. So I believe, I don't know if I should say first in myself, probably first in God's plan. Secondly is my own intuition and what is the universe telling me when I get quiet. So that is also God guiding me. Then number 3 are coaches and masterminds and people that I respect, Stephanie and my director of operations and my mastermind and Kate, who's going to be my coach, and Susan Hyatt, who's been a coach of mine. So these kinds of people in my life would be last, if I'm being honest. I still trust, the universe and God and my own intuition first. And then I listen to other people. And so lastly, about goal setting for intuitives so here's a question to ask yourself, a question to ask. Where are you playing small in your life or your business? And how much of that is fear-based? And I know that is a deep question, but I believe wholeheartedly that in order for new to come in, we must release the old. Whether that is old patterns, old beliefs, old relationships, old ways of being, or an old business model. To step into something new, we have to release the old. So I'm actually going to share something that I did in my private group. I'm going to share something here that was in my private group because it was so aha-ish. So I was actually talking to my Girl Boss group, or possibly my Front Seat Life community. I'm not sure which one, but in the moment I was telling the story, I had an aha. And that was when I first moved into my house, which was a little over a year ago. I bought my first house by myself and I love it. I'm sitting in it right now. It was a very girl boss, powerful CEO moment for me in my life where I, since my divorce, saved the money and bought a beautiful house in the Seattle area, which for those of you who know is very expensive. And I bought a beautiful home. And when I moved in here, I decided I needed to release some old relationships that were no longer serving me. So I had a burn ceremony and I just released some old things that were no longer serving me, friendships in particular. And in the moment when I was teaching that to my clients, I had an epiphany that 2 months later is when I met the person I'm in a relationship with now. And I now believe, because I have seen it more clearly, that is part of how I manifested this relationship, is that I released something in my life that was taking up time and energy and space that was no longer serving me to make space for something that I wanted in my life and that does serve me. And it's not easy. After that time came some loneliness, came some time by myself because I had released something that again was was taking up space, but was no longer serving me. And that is scary. Again, it was only 2 months, but who knows? It could have been 2 years. Those are the things we don't know. God has control over that. We don't know that all the time. And so being able to step into the fear, and again, hey, I'm not perfect at this. I trust me, I am not perfect. My mastermind group just really challenged me on this. There's a part of my business that I have been wanting to release for a while. And there comes a lot of fear in that because it's stable. It's a huge part of my income, but it's no longer serving me. And so I ask you to ask yourself that same question. Where in your life or your business are you holding on to something that may no longer serve you so that you can make room for new goals? That's a deep one to end on. But I think that's where I'm going to end. So, I thank you so much for listening. I don't know what's turned lately or what's happening, but I'm getting so many DMs from people that are saying, I can't even talk about it. It just makes me so honored, from people that are telling me how much they appreciate this and, how much is changing their lives or their relationships or their business. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because this is, for anybody who does a podcast, by the way, this is labor of love. We don't get paid for this shit. We actually pay. I pay somebody to produce this and help me with it. And it is just out of love and wanting to spread this Front Seat Life message. So anybody else who is also doing a podcast, I love you. I hear you. I respect you. And thank you for all of the listeners. Please, if you ever feel like popping over to iTunes and leaving hopefully a 5-star review and some comments. I always love reading those on air. I'm getting very excited for 2020 to bring you a little bit of a new format and some new awesome stuff for the podcast. And I'm just really honored. And I will be with you next week and every Friday for Front Seat Life Friday. Front Seat Squad is coming up on the 18th and a webinar as well. So go follow me over on jessicabutts.com. You can find out about my list and I will get you all the details. So have an amazing day. Enjoy the goal setting for intuitives, and thank you again for listening. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options. And the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.